Welcome to the Lady Up America podcast. I'm Diane Canada, your host. I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies, today we are going to be talking about big wishes and final dreams. I'll be right back.
Lady up around this town. Lady up around this town. Victory on the battleground. We claim it now. Lady up, lady up. Lady up, lady up.
You've heard of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We all know how they grant, big wishes to children that are diagnosed with terminal illnesses. Well, what happens if you're not a child? What happens if you're in your adulthood and you have some final dreams that you want to fulfill before you pass from this world? Well, that's what Mindy has stepped in to do in honor of her father, James. So I want you to hear all about her dad, James, today. I want you to hear about the tremendously important work that she's doing to grant final dreams to people who are in their terminal stages of illness. And for us to just honor her, that's a tough thing to do. But I'll tell you, she's doing it with a lot of grace. So if y'all would please welcome to the show, Mindy Bess. Hi, Mindy.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Thank you for being here. I want to start out by just asking an obvious question. And this is something that I think a lot of people wonder about. When we have a deep loss in our family or friend, whatever it might be, someone that was close to us that we loved, and it sparks a desire for us to create a foundation or to create a movement or create a nonprofit, whatever it might be, in their honor. How do you balance the pain of that loss and having to relive that in a lot of ways by telling the story over and over again with the kind of the blessing aspect of the nonprofit? How do you balance that?
Well, that is a very good question, and one I will admit is the first time that I've kind of been asked that. I think, for me, it took me a while like several years to be able to process all of that loss
Yeah.
and then grow from that so that I could step into this call of this organization.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people, they're like, oh, you deal with death and dying. And for me, I don't really think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I really think of it as, we're coming in and blessing them
Mm-hmm.
in a real deep, dark time and providing them hope and joy during that struggle to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful answer. And do you feel like I can just speak for me, like it feels to me like the pain is being repurposed for good. Like that's how God does things. He exchanges beauty for ashes. We go through something tough. If we're Christians, we know that our loved one is in God's hands, whether that's someone here on earth or whether they've passed on. Does that seem to be the case for you? Do you find that it helps in bringing it, kind of giving new purpose for the pain?
I think it really does, honestly. I mean, knowing, because my dad was a strong Christian guy and served in the church and stuff, and I know for a fact that he's in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that, it really does. It kind of like lightens the pain,
Yeah.
um, so that I could focus on, you know, fulfilling the wishes of others
Mm-hmm.
and giving that hope and that joy that I would have wished I could have given my father in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, we're going to get to the good stuff here in just a sec, but I just want to, kind of maybe a final thought on that train of thought here, real quick, is that I think what you said is so key that it took a couple of years for you to process the loss, for you to grieve that loss and process that loss. And I think it's so important that we feel that healing from the Lord before we can really be as effective in the work that we're doing. And even if we did endure that loss, there wasn't a happy ending to our story. If you can bring happy endings for other people, or you can prevent things from happening, it makes you feel um, it makes you feel good that you can do it from a place of overflow and not depletion, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If we're healed, we let the Lord heal us. then we can go and pour that healing out on other people.
Right. That's 100% correct.
Yeah. Let's talk about your dad, Mindy. Let's tell us about James Bess.
Well, my dad, he man, it's hard to really even, like, go into words with him. He was, like I said, a very godly man, loved his family, was always, working to support us, really loved, serving in his church. He was a deacon
Mhm.
in his church. Um, you know, he I think he accepted Christ when I was about 2 or 3 years old, and then like, after that point, we were every time the doors were open, we were in the church. He was always doing, like, drama, and, he did that even outside of the church, joining the Orlando Opera Company, as an extra and an actor.
Wow.
So he loved that. He was also, a veteran. He served in the Army for a little bit before he was medically discharged, for epilepsy,
Oh,
and so he loved serving. Like, that was his thing, was, like, a pure servant's heart,
yeah.
and, that was the legacy that he kinda left behind, is that, we serve others.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so when I wasn't able to grant my dad his wish, that legacy of servitude and servanthood, um, really just, kicked in to where I could serve others, pick up where he left off.
And how did your dad pass?
He, um, he had terminal brain cancer.
Mm.
He was diagnosed when he was 38, passed away when he was 42.
Wow.
The tumor was the place in the brain where his tumor was. It caused him to drag one of his feet. So he was always tripping and falling and stuff. And then this one particular evening, he tripped, fell, and hit his head on the wall,
Oh, boy.
and ended up dying of a brain hemorrhage, but it was, like, indirectly caused by the cancer.
Wow. Wow.
So he passed in June of 2002.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well,
I
thank
just
you.
wanna say that first. It's it's just so hard when it's a parent especially.
Mhm.
Um, just makes me cry, but from that point to now, so your dad had a final wish, and tell us about that. What's kind of inspired this work for you?
So when he loved Garth Brooks. He loved, I mean, that was kinda his escape. Always, listening to Garth Brooks, and one day I found him in our TV room, and he was really lost in this televised concert special that Garth was doing. Um, and he was just sitting in his chair, his eyes were closed. He was, like, grooving to the music, like, it was a total escape for
Mm,
him. And I came in, saw him, and then just the idea hit me, "Hey, why don't I try to get a meet and greet or concert tickets, for my dad to, see Garth Brooks?" I think that would be really fun and entertaining for him.
yeah.
But A, we lived in Orlando, Florida at the time, and B, there were no resources. So even though I tried, like, every path that I knew how, I wasn't able to get it done.
Mm,
And,
I'm sorry.
it was like that was the catalyst for
Mhm.
me, because he died 2 years later not having his wish, and I was like, this isn't fair, because he's an adult. Like, if he was a kid, he could have it through Make-A-Wish, but because he's an adult in his 40s, he can't.
Mm,
And so that was, like I said, the catalyst for me to, eventually start an organization in his name and his honor that did that for adults.
it's precious. So, shifting into some good news now. Let's talk about some of the wishes you've been able to fulfill. So how have some of these wishes impacted people in this organization?
Well, anytime that we as a team, get to fulfill a wish, it's very rewarding. especially when we get, testimonials and photos from the clients. And those are the things that we ask for in return for the wish. Is very simple. But seeing the smiles on the kids' faces, or the spouse faces and friends, it's just, it gives us a sense of like joy
Yeah.
that we were able to do that for others.
Mm.
And it gives the family something to cling to, like lifelong memories of this last, dream or last wish that they have. And it's just something that they, if in the sad moments, they can, go back and look and, you know, bring a smile to their face and have those memories. So that's like our reward, and the reward for like the family that, or friends that go, attend the wish fulfillment with the client. Um, but I mean, as for the client, it's just, it gives them a sense of hope and joy in that situation, because oftentimes when someone is struggling with a terminal illness, they move from being like thriving in life and doing life to just merely surviving.
Mhm.
Like survival becomes their main focus.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, just to interject here for a sec, when you're struggling in your health, it's like the whole world goes on pause, doesn't it? Like your health is, I mean, I think in America, we all take our health for granted way too much. I'm first in line, for that. I try. I'm doing better these days, but for a lot of years, I abused my body pretty bad with a lot of junk going in, or not taking care, not exercising, not all these things. So I think when you go from being a very highly productive person, or someone who's really used to being able to get up and go whenever you want to all of a sudden be confined to a home, or even confined to a bed or a wheelchair, that's got to be incredibly difficult to manage, just to your day in and day out. So to have something to look forward to, I mean, what you're doing here, Mindy, is God's work. I mean, it's beautiful work.
Well, thank you. And you're right. I mean, living with it, secondhand, watching the independence, because a lot of times when your health fails, you lose the independence.
Yeah,
Like you're not able to go to the store yourself. You're not able to do the things that you used to do.
yeah.
And especially when it comes to men, males, especially when you lose that insecurity, that's like, that individuality, and you lose that.
Yeah,
It's like, it's devastating, to their psyche. And it's kind of a downward spiral. Like if your psyche is down, then you lose eventually that will to keep fighting.
yeah, I would imagine that is very difficult for men, because they are the providers, they are the protectors, and for them now to have to be provided for and protected in different ways and cared for, where they can't do that. It's have you, just from watching your dad go through this, do you have any any insights or any words of wisdom for maybe someone who's dealing with this right now, as a family? Anything that the family can do to make that easier on a man who might be experiencing this right now?
I think it's a lot of just encouragement, um, finding, helping them find a sense of purpose,
Yeah.
in that situation. For my dad, like he when he became unable to really walk fully, or steadily, he would have a we got him a motorized wheelchair,
Mhm.
and he could drive it himself.
Mhm.
And he went and he got on the bus and he took it down to the hospital and served there, like helped the people in the hospital.
Wow.
So it was finding a sense of purpose,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing, like encouragement. Obviously, there's got to be grace
Yeah.
there too, that you have to understand, like, okay, there's a, like, an emotional, mental war going on as well as the physical.
Mhm.
And, so doing those things, going on little excursions if you can afford it,
Mhm.
whether it's just, going to play miniature golf or going to a movie or something, to just keep the positivity
Yeah.
up in those situations.
Yeah. That's so good. And, I think a lot of men would struggle if they feel pity from their family. My dad went through a stroke, and he's gone now. This was my natural dad, and um, he was a martial arts expert. He was when I was younger, he was a pastor. He was very independent, every even up into the point that he had his stroke in his 60s. He did, exercised every day, and he went on walks every day, so he was extremely independent. And this stroke, it affected the left side of his body, so he couldn't walk for quite a while. He never regained full use of his left arm, and even when he did walk, he would kinda drag that foot, as well. And I can remember like, when he was finally able, to get up and do things again, it was very minimal, like, he couldn't do what he used to do. But during that interim, when I was there taking care of him and, all of a sudden you're having to, to bathe your dad, you're having to dress him, and all the other things that come with that. It's what I tried to do, and I'm sure I didn't do everything perfectly, not by a long shot, but what I tried to do is help maintain his dignity and
Mhm.
to not pity him, because I think that would have been really tough for him to see pity in my eyes. Instead, it was more like I just kinda had the mental attitude of, "This is my dad. This is just what the deal the cards that we've been dealt. Dad, you just gotta suck it up and deal with it. I gotta wipe your bottom." Whatever. But not
Right.
but not make it not draw a lot of attention to it or let him see pity in my eyes. Do you think that's, something that would be helpful to share with people?
Absolutely. I think, the pity is detrimental to say the least. And, I mean, yes, you do have to come and help. I mean, it is what it is, but finding that balance between, we have to help,
Yeah.
and then but independence as well.
So, Mindy, your organization's been around for nearly 7 years, and so you've got some good history under your belt here of fulfilling wishes. Can you give us, some idea of some of the wishes you've been able to fulfill and tell us kind of the story behind some of those?
Well, thinking about it, there are two wishes that we've done over the last 7 years that are really special to me. And like each of the wishes, we've done 42 of them nationwide, and each of them carry their own special, unique features. But two in particular, they when people ask me, "Oh, what are your favorite wishes that you've done?" I tend to go one or the other. But and I can with time I can share them both. But one of them was I think in 2017. It was a gentleman. His name was Randy, and he lived in Michigan. He was in his 50s, I believe, had never really been out of the region, never been on vacation, never flown on an airplane. Um, so he lived a very, sheltered life in a way, hard life, but, just hemmed in, not really allowed to go anywhere, which a lot of Americans, even today, are not able to go many places because of expenses.
Mhm.
But, he applied, and, his wish was to see the ocean for the first time in
Mm.
person. But when I was coordinating with him, it was very difficult. Like, it was very hard to get him to say 3 words and, like, coordinate this trip. It was like pulling teeth practically. But we did it. We sent him and his brother on an all expenses paid trip to Panama City Beach
Oh.
in Florida, and oceanfront condo, the whole 9 yards. And it was about a 4-day trip, and after he got back home, we touched base and to see, like, okay, how'd it go? Like, what happened and what was your favorite things and stuff, and I honestly couldn't get him to stop talking for, like, 30 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, there was a total 180 turn, from when, we started the process to the end. And I mean, he was talking about things that, you and I might take for granted. Like not just the ocean that he saw for the first time, but he was like a palm tree. he had never seen a palm tree.
Mm.
So he was like, like, oh, I was like a kid in a candy store most of the time with everything that he was seeing,
Oh.
including a lizard that was running free on a park bench. Like, even the smallest things were just like, like, it was heaven to him. Like, he couldn't
Oh.
believe it what he was seeing. And we worked with another organization down there, and with Randy's permission, we had a couple of news teams that were out that interviewed him. And so he got his kind of like 5 minutes of fame with those news stations, and his story went out. And through that story, he'd mentioned that he really was looking for a special like souvenir of his trip, and someone heard it. So when they saw him like out shopping or whatever, they called him. He was in the parking lot apparently, and they called him in, and they had made him a souvenir of like driftwood and like all this special stuff. So they
Oh.
actually handmade a special souvenir for him,
Oh,
and they
wow.
gave it to him, and it was this magical time for him. But when he came back and we were talking, I'm actually the one who had to hang up the phone with him, because he was like, because of what you did for me, I now have a reason to fight again.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I gotta stop this conversation because I'm
Mhm.
about to be a puddle on the floor.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so
Wow.
even now, it kind of brings tears to my eyes because that's the heart. That is
Yeah.
why we do what we do, is to inject this hope and joy to give them a reason to fight again.
Yeah.
So that's the heart of who we are. And then the other wish was a little bit different, but it was still very special. This was in 20, a couple of years ago. So I think like 2022, something like that. Maybe actually no, it was last year. It was last August. Um, Sorry, like everything kind of comes together, like flows together with me.
It's okay.
But we had a client. She was local here in Madison, and she was a recovering addict, and she had turned her life around and became a house mom for other recovering addicts here in Middle Tennessee. And her wish was to have a meet and greet with Jelly Roll,
Uh,
and like have him sing and hear him and stuff. And so we, with any celebrity wish, we have our clients um, do like a video,
mhm.
like a 30 or 60, 90-second video, like saying what, who they are, what their wish is, who they want to meet. And
Mhm.
then we post it on social media and see what happens. And we had the video, posted it, and then within 24 hours, like 24 to 48 hours, it had gone viral.
Oh.
And Jelly Roll himself saw the video, messaged us. It was on TikTok. So he messaged us through TikTok and said, get a hold of my assistant, ASAP.
Oh.
So that was like on a Sunday. And then Monday, I got a hold of the assistant. And within 8 hours, literally like back and forth on the phone for 8 hours on a Monday afternoon, we planned and coordinated the whole thing.
Wow.
And in addition to the meet and greet, because it was like she was a recovering addict and that's really where his heart is, he volunteered to do a mini concert as
Uh,
well. And so we arranged to have this mini concert and meet and greet like the week after. So that following Monday. And so that following Monday, we had a private event, and there was a little cafe in this church. There's about 40 seats in this little cafe area, and it had a little stage. And there were like 40 recovering addicts in that
mm.
room,
Mm.
all sitting down, and of course all the volunteers were kind of standing on the outskirts. And we did the meet and greet with the family privately first, and that was really cool. Lots of just casual conversations and hugs and photos, and his wife Bunny was there as well. So we had that, and then he came into the little concert area, and got on the stage and started talking and singing. And at one point, I just want to say, like, the presence of God just fell in the room,
Mm.
and there was not a dry eye, like,
Oh.
in the entire place. And he was so touched and moved by that as well. Like, he broke down on stage and,
Oh.
like, started crying.
Oh.
So it was really special that, the presence of God just kind of hovered
Yeah.
over every single person, whether they were a Christian or not, and just that hovering and the impact that it had on everybody was just really cool. And then afterwards, he stuck around, he and Bunny, and we went to the, auditorium, the sanctuary, and did photos, and he just hung out. And it was really special for the client, but then also everybody that was in attendance that night. And the crazy God story thing is, like, that was a God story in and of itself. But Bunny, she was so moved by everything that had happened that she went home and did a Facebook Live about everything that happened. And within, like, the next morning, I mean, I went home, went to bed. I don't follow her on social media, and so I didn't know that she had done that.
Mhm.
But I woke up the next morning and there was a text message from a big online magazine that was like, we want to run the story.
Wow.
And I'm like, absolutely. So they ran it, and then within a week, uh, it was they had run it, and then CMT got a hold of it, Billboard Media got a hold of it, the Tennessean got a hold of it, Fox 17 ran the story. Then there were syndicates all over the country, like in New York, Carolinas, that were running the story as well.
Wow.
So it just went completely viral. And with Fox 17, they ran it, and then at the end of the year, they did their top 10 in the top trending story countdown
Uh-huh.
for all of 2023, and we came in at number 1. So we were the top trending story
Wow.
for Fox 17 for all of 2023,
Wow.
uh, just because of this one thing. And we didn't. There are some wishes that we might, like, send a press release about, but this one we didn't, because it was private.
Yeah.
It was only by invitation only, so we did not, like, publicize it. But because of all of the feedback after, it just kind of went complete viral.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mindy, when God wants something out, when he wants a message out or he wants a moment, a God moment publicized, he is the best PR agent ever. Like, and I have found that the things that make the most impact are the things that only God could orchestrate. We show up every day. You're showing up every day. You're being obedient. You're following. You're doing your best to serve and love people, and then God does the miracle. He's in the miracle working business, and I just think that we all need to remember that in our lives, in whatever capacity we're serving in, that our job is to show up, be obedient, love people, serve people. God will get the message where he wants it to go. We don't have to sweat that and worry about that. And that's something that I think is such a beautiful display of God just showing out. He just, he just showed up. And you weren't trying to capitalize on that at all. That was just all God. And it's beautiful. I honor you for your obedience and for the heart in which you're serving. I'm sure many people have told you this before, but I didn't know your dad, but just hearing your story about him, helping us get to know him a little bit through your story, I am certain that he is very proud of you for what you're doing. So I honor you for your work.
Well, thank you. And you're right, with the Lord just showing out. We had a song on this Sunday. I don't know what the name of the song was, but one of the key lines in it was simple obedience changes history.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's right.
And and I'm like, that's so true.
Yeah.
And with obedience is just saying yes.
Yeah.
So for me, like, my personal message is the power of yes. You know,
Mm, mhm.
if the Lord is asking you to do something, no matter how absolutely crazy it might sound, no matter how illogical it seems on paper, but if he is asking you to do something and you say yes,
Mhm.
the rewards are just amplified.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you may not get them right away, but the rewards of that continual yes and that simple obedience will change history. It'll change other people's history as well as your own.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I'm in 100% agreement with you on that. We don't have to figure it out, everybody. For those of you out there who are listening right now who are trying to figure it all out, stop. Stop trying to figure it out. Just show up today and take the next breadcrumb that's in front of you that you know that God's leading you toward, and that is enough for today. And we don't that's all we have to it's all we have to do is just take the next breadcrumb, do the next thing that God's asking you to do, and stop trying to see too far down the line because it'll just drive you crazy. You just got to stop. I have learned that so hard in my life. Like that lesson. Like I got that one down now. Cuz I'm one of these. I love to figure it out. I love to try to finesse and finagle and all that. And the Lord's just been dealing with me a lot on that too. So lay it down. Would you let me do it, please? I'm really a lot more capable than you are. Can you just lay it down?
Yeah,
So
that's a lesson that, I've been doing it in my ministry for so long, but in 2020, like, he told me, he's like, "Okay, do nothing unless I say do it."
yeah,
And for me, growing up the way that I did, like, if there was a problem, you fixed it.
yeah, yeah,
If someone wasn't doing something, you picked up the slack and you did it.
yeah,
If you needed a new job, you went out and looked.
yeah.
You did the work. There was no let God do it.
Mhm,
There was like, you do it. And, in that year, it was really, really hard because, there was a lot of outside noise
mhm,
that was testing me in that word.
mhm.
And so it's hard to just that resting place,
Yeah.
continuing to move forward, but not striving after something on your own.
That's the key. It's the effort. Yeah, it's the striving and the effort. Like God may tell you to go do something very, very hard, or he may tell you to rest in him and wait on him. But that's where we've got to be so sensitive to his voice is that we have to know where his commandment is right now in our lives. Like what is he saying to us right now? And being in relationship with him and in his word every day, that's where we're going to learn to hear his promptings and hear his voice. I heard somebody say as we start to wrap up here, I heard somebody say recently, Diane, you're a human being, not a human doing. And I thought that
Right.
was so profound. Like we just have to be in his presence and he will tell you, like there'll just be a knowing. You'll know what to do next. Or you'll hear him saying, just rest and wait on me. And you just become a lot more attuned to his promptings when you're the closer and deeper you walk with him. And it's so true. We just don't have to do it all. Um, I think that laying around and waiting on him when you could be doing something that he's asking you to do, that's just as dangerous. So I think it's just that sensitivity to his promptings is where the peace is. Mindy,
Exactly.
let's tell everybody if they're listening and they're like, I want to be a part of what you're doing. I want to be a part of helping make these final dreams come true. Tell people how they can get involved with you.
So we have fundraising events that are all over Middle Tennessee that we can usually use volunteers for
Mhm.
to help out. We work with first responders, so coming out helping with those first responder events would be great. But also too is just spreading the word about us to others because we really are trying to get sponsors and donors to help us, move forward in what we're doing and the growth that God has us in right now. Um, and then, you know, the biggest thing too is sharing this with loved ones and
Mhm.
friends because it usually takes friends and family to get people to actually apply because we're finding that the clients themselves are so, they're just, "Oh, I don't deserve this." "Oh,
Mhm.
someone's sicker than I am." So they have all of these excuses not to apply,
Yeah.
but it takes friends and family to come alongside of them and go, "You know what? You're worth this.
Oh.
So what do we have to lose? We don't really have anything to lose. So let's just try and see what happens." And, usually when it does, like, they're over the moon.
Mm.
Uh, and with excitement and hope and joy. So it just takes a little bit of encouragement from friends and family to, coax them into doing it.
Yeah.
So those are the places, like volunteering, donors, getting the word out about our services for others.
So jamesbess.org is the website where they can learn more, right?
Yes, ma'am.
jamesbess.org. So it's BESS, like Sam, for those of you who are listening and can't see the screen, jamesbess.org. And go and fall in love with this organization and get involved and help spread the word and show up at some of these fundraisers and these events. But more than anything, what I'm hearing you say is if you've got a loved one that is in a terminally um, ill state of their life, then this is for them, even if they are too proud or too nervous to raise their hand. This is something that we can do. We can be on the lookout for these folks and recommend them to you, Mindy. I'm just so impressed with you, and I'm so excited to just see you continue to grow, to see you continue to bless lives like this, and again, just honor you. I just want to honor you for everything that you've done to step up and to fulfill this really important need. So thank you for being with me today too, Mindy.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Diane. I really appreciate your time.
You're so welcome. So welcome. All right, ladies, I hope that this has been a blessing for you today. And I hope there's some nuggets in there, some reminders. We all needed them. I needed them today. I hope it's been a big help. Remember, let God do it. You're a human being, not a human doing. And I will see you next time. Lady up.
Lady up around this